Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian.
And I'm Jimmy. Today we are diving into chapters 31, 32, and 33 of The Way of Kings. And as always, full spoilers ahead for the entire Stormlight Archive series for things that have been published. So if you haven't read those, we'll see you later. For everyone else, welcome back. And Christian, you tried to replace me and you just couldn't do it.
You know what? I had it all lined up, had a different guest ready to go, and then these two men in black suits and shades showed up at my house and just said, stop right there. And
cease and desist. Yeah.
And the rest I can't really talk about on air, but you know, we tried, and Jimmy showed me what's what, and he's earned his place. He's sticking around, I think. You guys aren't seeing what's on screen, but there may be an object being placed at my head.
Listen, you know, it's unfortunate, but you really should read paperwork before you sign it. You know, I was willing to go along with the gag, but as soon as I heard film, the Ravens were being sent out. The span reads were going out. I said, I don't think so, sir. And, you know, I have
his ways.
Majority claim on this podcast. I have all the passwords, and, you know, I'm not willing to be cast aside. So for all of you who are wishing on my downfall, wanted to replace me, I don't think so. Okay, I'm here to stay.
Yeah, well, guys, I'm warming up the hive mind. That's all I'm saying. So you just watch out over there, buddy.
You know what I do to Kremlings? I step on them.
Oh, you step on a Kremling, two more Kremlings come out, mate. That's all I'm gonna say.
Purple blood everywhere.
Yeah,
which does pop up in the chapters today. By the way, there's a little bit of Kremling blood colors.
Oh man,
Kremling is also used derogatory in these chapters. I took offense to that. Yeah, I have filed a complaint with Sanderson LLC, the Cosmere cops, if you will.
Yeah, we represent the Kremlings, guys. No one else is defending them, and I just love how much this is permeated throughout the listenership. Every email respecting the Kremlings,
as they should.
As they should, absolutely. But no, it was there's pros and cons, right, to the week off. I missed it, but sometimes you need a breather to get excited again. How you feeling, man?
Oh, I'm feeling good. You know, last week, obviously, I was out, and it was a very exhausting week. But I took this week to kind of, you know, recharge the batteries and get back on things. And I feel good. I feel really good. And I know people probably missed the episode last week, but, you know, it is what it is. It's life. Things happen. You know, holidays will be coming up. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of you know, gaps there as well. So, you know, we're just plugging our way through. The Cosmere is not going anywhere, or I should say Stormlight Archive is not going anywhere. And we got plenty of time to get through this thing. And, you know, all good things come in time. So I'm excited to continue on and to get into the text. I've been thinking, man, and you know how a lot of people get like teardrop tattoos below their eye?
Oh, yeah.
Think about getting a Kremling trail. What do you think?
That's, as much as I'm part of the hive mind, I might have to advise against that, mate.
Why?
I think just you're Jimmy Stormblessed.
I work from home.
You're Jimmy Stormblessed, mate. You need the big shash brand on your forehead. That's what you need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why not both?
Yeah, oh, there we go.
I want to be
best of both worlds.
I want to walk into my next work meeting in Denver, and I want to be like the Lopin, and everyone's gonna be like, "What is on his forehead? And why is he talking like he's in the military?
Why does he have one arm?
Yeah,
what happened?"
Listen, I'm dedicated, bro. I'll take this thing off at the shoulder.
Man, you know what? For all the flack all of Sanderson's kind of eccentric characters get, Lopin was kind of welcome. I don't know if you felt the same. Like, this guy's kind of cool.
So I did not like Lopin on my first read through. I think I've mentioned how much like I didn't enjoy Lopin, but I was a little happy to see him here. Mainly because I feel like I've caught more things about him that seem a little odd and seem a little mysterious. And there's a lot of questions around Lopin, which we'll get into. So I'm happy. I'm happy to see Rock, Lopin, Moash, even.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of the main beats for our main characters. So it's just like whenever I reread any other series, I always get a couple side characters that I get attached to. And I'm like, oh, well, how are they going to play into this overall plot moving forward? Because we got a long time to go in Stormlight Archive. So Sanderson's going to fill it out and probably use people in ways that we didn't expect. Yeah. And Lopin will probably be one of those people.
Yeah, it's our chance to pay attention to the B and C characters, I guess. And I think what's helped me with Lopin as well is I've started Alloy of Law, or Alloy of Mid, as you lovingly call it.
I can hear the apples being thrown. I'm ducking.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. I've got my Kremling umbrella to block you, mate. But look, Wayne, Wayne, what a character, mate. I want a mate count. I'm like 100 pages in. I think mate has been said 100 times. I feel like he's really channeling the down under DNA. But I'm struggling. I'm struggling with Wayne, but I do enjoy the Era 2 setting. It's fun to see how the Mistborn magic can go into this sort of 20th, I think it's like early 20th century setting, right? Like early 1900s.
I think it's like
New
Industrial
York.
Revolution
Yes.
time, maybe like that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like skyscrapers.
Yeah.
It felt to me like early New York City or something.
Yeah, maybe like that 1900
Yeah.
vibe, 1920, something like that.
Yeah. So that's been really cool. But in terms of like characters that pop in and can grade on you, Lopin's got nothing on Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne is for me the bottom of the barrel. I mean, I don't like Wayne. I read a book. I've only read Alloy of Law, and I will continue. And now that you're reading it, honestly, that makes me feel more inclined to get to it because I need to see what the Lost Metal is all about because like I've never seen a book get such high and low ratings at the same time, especially for a Brandon Sanderson book. Because like so many people, they're his favorite author, right? So like they go and read his books and they're always at least happy with it. But I've seen some like die hard people that are not thrilled with Lost Metal. So I'm very curious to see what holds at the end of this the quartet, as they call it.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I think it's going to be, at least my prediction is because everyone says, man, the Lost Metal is so Cosmere, like it's so important for the Cosmere. And I wonder if it's going to be like that vibe I got with Sunlit Man, where I'm like, is this too like full of terminology and Cosmere references that it's like it ceases almost to be a story sometimes, and it feels like I don't know. It starts to feel like a guidebook or a self-referential thing. I don't really know.
Kind of like a wink and a nudge type deal.
Yeah, or just like I think it's strange when so many people are aware of the universe you're reading about, when we've been so used to people not being aware of the Cosmere and what the heck's going on.
Yeah. And I mean, he did say the gloves were coming off a bit with the Cosmere stuff. I read the first 2 chapters of Sunlit Man and I will continue it at some point, but right now is not the time for me to read. I don't want to read it and be like begrudgingly going through it. I don't think that's a good idea. I'll probably be in the mood for it within the next like couple months, but yeah, there's a lot. You were right. There's a lot of capitalized words in, letters and words in Sunlit Man to start it off, and measurements of units and such. And I was
BEUs.
Like, yeah, I was like, oh no, what is this? What is that?
Yeah, that first 2 pages, I was like, oh no, have we jumped the shark? But like, luckily, it finds its groove.
I'll tell you the thing about Sunlit Man that has me excited though. I love the setting, like the art of the setting and stuff.
Oh, it's so cool.
I'm like, this is really cool. I hope that the tone of it isn't just purely lighthearted throughout. I hope that because that world feels like crazy intense to me, at least.
For sure. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And I hope that it comes through whenever I'm reading it. So I don't know. I'm excited. Now that you're reading Mistborn Era 2, I'll probably continue once you get the book 2, or at least try to if I have time. And we'll have to see what these big connections are everyone's talking about.
100%. Man, I was looking at my Sander shelf, my beautiful UK edition where they're all matching. I'm like, I remember a time where I'd read a Sanderson book and be like, the next one, and you got to smash this Cosmere thing. But for whatever reason, that stopped at Era 2. For whatever reason it was. I think it was just like, why are they so small? Is it weird that they put me off?
So small. I go, oh, thank God, they're tiny. Thank God.
Yeah. But I was like, wow, I just read Mistborn Era 1 and they were like thick boys. Why is this like not as good? Is this just, it just felt less important for some reason.
The scope.
The scope felt smaller and less important. But I think with everyone talking about the Lost Metal, I was like, well, maybe this is quite a bit more important. I'm also like, reaching that point of like, look, the Cosmere is changing whether I like it or not. So let's give this like future era stuff a bit more of a chance before I write it off. Yeah,
I have a strange feeling that Sanderson probably made those books shorter on purpose to then kind of like let's put it back in the box and then unwrap it again, and maybe at the end of this we see another explosion, right, of bigger things and more consequential actions that are going to play into the bigger picture of the Cosmere. That's my guess. Like it was intentionally kind of scaled back a bit, to fool you, maybe trick you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm fairly sure because I only have the ebooks, but I'm pretty sure Yumi and Silent Man are like bigger, right?
I mean, yeah, they're
And
400 or 500 page books. Yeah.
yeah, they're way, they're way longer than Era 2. So that's, yeah, interesting. Did you see this week we got the title pretty much confirmed
I did not.
for 5? Yeah.
No.
So, you know how they're, are you aware that the titles of all the books are making a Katek?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was going to be Knights of Wind and Truth to complete that perfectly symmetrical thing he's got going on. But for like marketing purposes, he's just thinking Wind and Truth for the actual book that we get. But the in world book equivalent will be Knights of Wind and Truth to keep that lore
Interesting.
intact. But it should be like Stormlight 5, Wind and Truth. So that'll be what we're going to be talking about nonstop for however long.
I saw a Reddit post that said they feel like maybe because of the title, like I had saw people were talking about the title. I didn't know it was coinciding with an announcement, but the post was about Wind and Truth being a eulogy, and that they believe that Szeth is going to have to come to terms with being truth and truthless and all that stuff, and then Kaladin will also be perishing in the book. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Wind and Truth, it's basically Kaladin and Szeth, right? That's what you get from it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like, yes, they're so integral to the plot, and this feels like some sort of climax for them, but they feel so important that it feels too early. Don't you feel like there's more to be done?
Yeah, my fear is that we would see something where Kaladin maybe does perish and then comes back later, and I don't want it.
Jon Snow,
Yeah.
2023.
I don't want it. McQueen. I don't want it at all. Szeth, I think, could go. I think you could probably give Szeth the boot.
Yeah, I could say
he'd
that.
He'd be a tragic character in many ways, depending on what happens in book 5. You could see him as a tragic character. I think it would be a good, emotional punch. Kaladin, I don't know, man. I feel super. We'll see. We'll see how I feel once I get through Rhythm of War. I think maybe snuffing out his arc in a book 5. I'd have to see how it's done, obviously, because it could be done well. But my gut reaction is too soon. But I also feel like it wouldn't be out of reach for Sanderson to maybe do something treacherous to him and then bring him back later, which I feel
there's something about. Yeah, for me, it's like kind of getting excited about a good Szeth death. Sign me up. I could see that, and I could see that being really impactful because it's like you'd finally come around to him and understand him fully, and then off he goes. With Kaladin, I've kind of always had this. I've had this craving to see old man Kaladin. In the same, we get old man Dalinar. You know, like I'd like to see how he reminisces on his Bridge 4 days and his youth with his dad and the surgery as an old man. You know, I'd like him to at least reach his father's age, or like maybe have a family of his own. I would enjoy reading that. Yeah,
especially because Lirin and his relationship is so important to his character arc, and having him have time to reflect on that once he is, a father or an older gentleman. I think that would be pretty rewarding for us readers.
Yeah, can you imagine a book 10 with like Kaladin and his son and the parallels to these flashbacks we're reading this week? I feel like that could be really good.
Yeah, I think, and also, I could see it. I could definitely see that, because I think Kaladin's arc is going to go. It's already went in a direction I don't think many of us thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a couple more twists and turns for him down the road. I don't know. I'm kind of backing off a bit from the Kaladin's dead in book 5 thoughts, just because I don't know how you do that and not make it feel a little bit premature, possibly. But who knows?
Yeah, that's the thing. Would it be premature? That's the worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be. I think by the time that book comes out, we'll have speculated almost every character death.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. We're just throwing darts at the board, hoping something sticks.
Yeah. And we'll just play that clip whenever we're right.
And before 5 comes out, maybe we'll just do an episode of predictions. Well, and we have to literally kind of sign our name to the predictions. And yeah. I think,
like if I get more right than you, then I can officially sign up a new co-host, right?
oh
That's
no, I was going to
that's
say
the
whoever
deal.
loses has to go visit the other person. That's how we'll decide
Oh
who has to take
yes,
that
that's
24-hour
way
hour
more
flight.
wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way more awesome. Not as destructive.
Or yeah, and if we tie, we go to Hawaii, so everyone's a winner.
Oh, I'm down with that.
Yeah, done. Whenever we have our first in-person episode, it will happen. Um, my only worry is it'll be so good we'll never be able to come back from it. That's the thing.
Probably.
Yeah, someone's
Yeah, I
moving
did
somewhere.
a
Who
in-person
knows?
podcast with my best friend on my book channel like a couple weeks back, months now probably. And I was like, oh wow, this is way better.
Yeah,
In
yeah, it would
every
be
single
awesome.
way, it's better.
Yeah,
But
can you imagine like a Lost in Roshar set? We could go crazy with this thing.
oh
Oh
man,
man.
think of all the Kremlings.
Yeah, I know.
I would hire extras, and every time we say Kremlings, I would go, "It's a Kremling party," and I'd have people come in Kremling costumes and dancing. It'd be great, dude.
God. Okay. We'll talk about that more in private.
I would have an ad on Craigslist and just get the shadiest people you've ever met. It would be
Hey man, that would
fantastic.
fit right into the
Just
Kremlin
smoking cigs. Like, are we on?
Oh my god, he's just like checking his watch and his
Was that the
Kremlin
signal?
outfit. What's this Kremlin thing they keep talking
Is
about?
this
I don't
Union?
know, man. They're paying us. Oh man.
Well, I suppose we should dive into these chapters.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, we got 3 of them today. We're doing 31, which is flashback, 32, and then 33. We're going to get Kaladin from the past, Kaladin the present, and then a little bit of our main lady Shallan talking to Jasnah and some other people, which is cool. But chapter 31, Beneath the Skin. And this is just a really quick flashback from 6 years ago where basically Lirin is drunk telling Kaladin that, you know, they're trying to be forced to sell or to use their oh my god, I'm blanking. I'm so sorry. There's spheres.
Oh, there's spheres, yeah.
Yeah, and he's saying, you know, we won't spend them no matter what. And Kaladin's like, well, maybe we just should. And he's saying, well, these are for your education. I want to send you to the Carbranth, and when you do go, don't be like me and come back. And it's obvious that Lirin and Kaladin's mom have had this kind of fight, and that's why Lirin is drinking. He doesn't drink often. And Roshar, just a real bag of crap, not a good dude at all, and is making life very difficult for them. And they sent out a letter to try to get Kaladin accepted to the surgeon school early, and they declined it, unfortunately. And then we see people come in and try to take the spheres, and it's people that Kaladin remembers helping, which makes it extra terrible. And they're all wearing new fancy clothes because they're being bought off by Roshar, and it's not good. Kaladin continues his inner struggle, wanting to become a spearman or a doctor. He's leaning towards actually going into the military, and I don't think that this is probably going to do any favors to sway him the other way. And that's basically it. They demand the spheres, and that's it. They kind of melt away into the night, and that's a wrap.
Yeah, it's pretty simple chapter, but I thought it was a good moment for Lirin's character.
Yes.
It was very cool when he was like, I don't know, me with my conspiratorial Lost in Roshar brain, quite like the moment where he was holding the spheres and Kaladin's like, it looked like he was holding the sun. And I was just like, ooh, is that something? I don't know. But I was just like, wow, Lirin's like, he had just like an ultimate dad moment, being like, son, the world's not fair. And then he like had his cool moment where he basically shone the light like Sam with his against the spider in what's her name, Return of the King. It just felt like a cool moment for him.
Yeah, and also Lirin is just a good dad in this moment where he's like, hey, no, this is for your education. Like, above all else, I want to make sure that you're good and that you can continue on, which I think a lot of people think that would probably be what parenthood's really all about. So I thought that was really touching. We do get some TWOK info here.
Yeah, we did. Hey.
Yeah, it says, as he studied, Cal idly pulled something from his pocket, a rock that had been sitting on his chair for him when he'd come back into the study. He recognized it as a favorite one of Tien that Tien had been carrying around recently. Now he left it for Kaladin. He often did that, hoping that his older brother would be able to see the beauty in it too, though they all just looked like ordinary rocks. He had to ask Tien what he found so special about this particular one. There was always something. And then they kind of talk about Tien spending his days learning carpentry, and he isn't really a good assistant for his Lirin because he cannot stand the sight of blood. And I wanted to ask you, is there significance to that of why he can't stand the sight of blood, or is this simply just one of those people who can't handle blood?
Yeah, I think it's simply that.
Okay.
And I think it's just showing that the forever reinstating the innocence of Tien. He's just a wholesome little kid, hey?
Yeah.
Which pulls on the heartstrings more whenever he eventually gets killed. And saying, I noticed the rock thing too, and I wanted a bit more, but I guess it was just another moment to remind you about Tien. I think there is, like we've talked about it quite a bit. There's obviously something more that he's seeing in them. I still don't necessarily know if it's having like an effect on Kaladin, not the rocks themselves. I think Tien has a bit of a magical element to him,
Yeah.
but not the rock itself. But I'm guessing also, mate, you noticed the opening line, right? Little nod to the Kremling blood, which was nice.
Yeah,
Lirin
yeah.
set the cup down, and the deep purple liquid, the color of Kremling blood, shivered and trembled. Just, I don't know, it just takes me back to the prelude, dude.
There's
Right,
there's always a lot of attention paid to or acknowledging the color of blood and purple being significant. So the color conspiracy rages on as we continue our reread.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll pull up that line that I was talking about. Yeah. He with Lirin. He pulled the cloth free, the goblet exploded with fiery radiance, the brightness nearly blinding. Cal raised his arm. His father was a shadowed silhouette that seemed to hold the sun itself in its fingers. Something like, obviously it's a very striking image. He loves to play with these sort of prophetic foreshadowing moments. I wonder if there is something for Lirin here.
Well, there's also a very interesting line at the beginning of the next paragraph right after that. It says, the large goblet shone with a calm light, almost, and then italicized, cold light. And we know light is basically what Rhythm of War is all about. And I'm just trying to remember, was there any significance about cold light?
Yeah, I think it's like, I forget which denomination we're dealing with. Is it the diamond, bronze, like the highest amount? So it's like it's like whenever you've got your top, your room lights in your house, and you get those really cold bluish ones.
Yeah,
you're just like, oh man, this is dreary. Maybe it's just tuning into that. I don't know if I guess Stormlight's almost kind of cold with its blue-esque vibes. Yeah. Anyway, I would just like to note this just in case Lirin has a cool has some sort of moment in the next book that could maybe be dragged back to this.
That would be, I would actually be very happy if Lirin got a cool moment, that we didn't see coming, and there was some sort of twist there.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of had, he had his one shared with Kaladin at the end of Rhythm of War, but I guess it was more about Kaladin in that moment. But they have a great father-son moment there. Yeah, I'd like to, I mean, there's a lot of theories with Lirin. I've been working on this video about why Kaladin keeps getting called the son of Tanavast by the Stormfather. And I never considered the angle of like Lirin being somehow related to Tanavast, like
he is Tanavast,
yeah, or something like that. Because there was something someone asked Sanderson: would the Stormfather say Tien was also the son of Tanavast? And I think he raffoed it, and I was like, oh
okay, my god,
maybe there's something there.
Oh my god, it's right there in front of us.
Yeah, and then I went down a Lirin rabbit hole where it's like at some point he like says the words, like the radiant words of a bondsmith, like exactly.
No.
Before like any of this sort of kicks off, and you're like, huh, that's interesting. So like, yeah, right. Maybe. I wish I had all that ready with me, but I remember being like, oh, Lirin might be sus.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that is huge.
Yeah, it could be something. do some Google searches, guys. Let's keep an eye on Lirin. There might be something more.
This is the groundbreaking stuff you come to the
Yeah.
17th jar. I mean, Lost in Roshar for.
Oh, well, yeah. The branding, mate. Get the branding right. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. We're just an offshoot.
Cut.
No.
Cut. Well, I think that about wraps up the flashback. What do you think?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do 3, because I was like, it's a nice chapter, but there's not much to dig into.
Yeah, a couple sprinkles here and there, but nothing too crazy. I mean, I actually like that flashback quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's very sad, but like you said, it's a good moment for Lirin for sure. So, chapter
go
32.
to the side carry, mate. Oh, I just want to quickly say I don't know about you, but when I read the last chapter title, Beneath the Skin, I just heard Chester Bennington. Beneath my skin. Like, I just got the Linkin Park flashback. That's all. So we needed to add that in.
Well, side carry for chapter 32, I immediately thought of a handgun, because in America we all have guns and shoot each other. But I was just thinking side carry. You know, I got my side carry here in case my rifle jams. I'm gonna pop you with my 45 Kimber, you know, or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's immediately what I thought of, and I was like, that is not what this chapter is going to be about at all.
Hey, man, you've got to represent that 49% of the audience. Hey, I don't know these things.
Hey, I'm here to throw a little bit of that American twang on the show. That's what I'm here for.
I'm here to shout out. What do we got? Like 4% Australian listeners. Hell yeah.
I mean,
g'day, guys.
Down under represent, man.
Yeah.
Your home team, your home crowd's not supporting you, Christian.
Yeah, man. They got to show up. What are we all doing?
You need to start, carrying your weight around in this place.
Australians, for the most part, are outside, which is not typical for the average Stormlight fan. No offense, guys. I think we're all self-aware enough.
Well, how could we be? We got to be on the copper mine. Just good.
Yeah, that's it.
Away.
Yeah. Whilst they're getting vitamin D, dude, I'm getting my theories together.
Getting your vitamin K from Kaladin.
Oh yeah. See, and need I say any more? We know who's living the better life here.
Oh, man. So chapter 32 side carry, there's an epigraph that says, they lived atop a place no man could reach, but all could visit. The tower city itself crafted by the hands of no man. Though the song of the last summer is a fanciful tale of romance from the 3rd century after the Recreants, it is likely a valid reference in this case. See page 27 of Varala's translation and note the undertext. So this is talking about Irithiro, but we're going to come back to this when we do the next chapter, because I have a little bit of a conspiracy. I don't think it's very good, but it's just something I kind of noticed. But the interesting thing here, if we do think it's Irithiro, it says crafted by the hands of no man.
Oh, dude.
Which it says a lot, I think, in that little sentence, because we've talked about Irithiro being a spaceship, possibly, all kinds of crazy things. So what do you make of this epigraph?
Yeah, I mean, that's the line that stood out to me too. And mind you, I did not do any Googling this episode. I just wanted to keep it fresh for once. Sometimes I feel like I rely a little too much on the copper mind, and sometimes it can influence your train of thought. So I wanted to go fresh here for Irithiro. Yeah, very brave. Crafted by the hands of no man. I don't know if you're going to relate this, what you're getting at, but the next chapter with the whole, the notes and the cities and the symmetry, is that what you're going to play it into? Your theory?
So I guess I'll just go ahead and say it. It was interesting because when Shallan is walking through the what is it called? The Palanaeum. Yeah, Palanaeum. Yeah. She kind of says the same thing as this epigraph does. And I'm like, maybe it's not about Irithiro. Maybe it's about this place. And it's also called there's a place in it called the Veil, which maybe can be, it's not exactly what it seems to be. And then she takes on a personality called the Veil. I was just like, this is really strange structure that we get this epigraph about this place that is a tower city, high upon itself, look like no man could craft it. And then Shallan is questioning how man could ever have made this place.
Yeah, or maybe it's like a part of a selection of places on Roshar that it's like the pyramids, right? Or like what's going on. So for me, like, I kept in mind that Jasnah's all of these notes are because she's trying to figure out Irithira and place it. So obviously she's looking in the places that would have references to it. So it's probably more likely that it's Irithira. But I think you're right that the Palanaeum is part of this group of wonders, let's call it, on Roshar.
Yeah.
But crafted by the hands of no man. Is there a potential that there's two places my head goes? One goes to like the singers, the Parshendi. The other part of my mind goes to like the shards, just playing God. But I just forgot how much of a mystery this was, because it becomes almost nonchalant as we get into Irithira. But I guess even once they go there, it's not functioning fully and they're still figuring it out. I don't think we truly get the origin story of how it was built.
I can't remember if we do or not.
But I mean, like, all the references to it are from thousands of years ago. So it feels like it would be. I'm just trying to think of what's the earliest history of Roshar as we know it. We know like the prelude was 4,000 years ago, and even then things would be going for a while. So I wonder when. Yeah, I'd love to know when it popped into existence, because it just seems like Radiant home base for forever. You know?
Yeah, and maybe it's one of those things where possibly there was more advanced civilizations before that kind of Bronze Age that we had saw. Like, what if humans aren't the first invaders? What if Parshendi aren't the original people? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of ways we can go with this, but one thing it kind of does remind me is that like Irithira, when you're reading The Way of Kings, is nothing but a kind of sprinkled in fable that we hear about. And then for us to actually see Irithira and then be reading this epigraph, I think it is likely the epigraph is about Irithira for sure, just because it is such a big reveal later in the later books, and it has such a good payoff here when you see the foreshadowing from this epigraph.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm going to break my vow and read
Go for
the
it.
Copper Mind. So, bit of the history. As we know it, as the experts on the Copper Mind say, Irithira was constructed at some point early on during the Silver Kingdom's era. Initially, many wished for it to be constructed in Alethela. However, it was eventually built elsewhere in a place considered to be, quote, nearest to honor. Interesting. It's unclear whether it was created by heralds, surge binders, or shards themselves, but it was beyond the capability of Radiance to create. Interesting.
So it sounds like the jury's still out.
Jury's still out, and I mean, the shard theory is thrown around too, because by the hands of no man, is this just because it's an old text and they viewed Herald as like beyond men, potentially?
Yeah, there's a lot of questioning about like the hierarchy of beings on Roshar, and a lot of these epigraphs play with that. Talking about people of the coming of fire and changing form, and you think you know what it is, but it could be a totally. I mean, it's just, if anything, we've learned we don't know much about the history of Roshar, right? It's all kind of up for question.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same, but like the more I read the Cosmere, the more I feel, I don't know, at least like my line of theorying and questioning with how these planets work, I feel like I got a clearer sense of what Sando's going for. Whereas before, without all these additional texts, I would be a bit, I don't know, like I wouldn't have as good of a handle on this stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, even some of the things that we see here, and I think about the way magic's played out in some of the other stuff, like, for instance, drawing is a very big deal in other Cosmere books, and it is a way of, doing magic almost. And then we see that Shallan is constantly drawing, and I'm like, oh, is this connected?
Yeah,
and then you start considering, you start considering the universe. And I think Roshar, for Roshar to make sense, he's going to have to bring in a lot of that stuff. I do wonder for those who only read Stormlight if they'll feel like these jumps are going to be like what? You know what I mean? Like what's happening here?
That's the
spaceship.
danger. Yeah, if
Yeah.
Uruduru takes off. Yeah, I think Rhythm of War was a bit of that for some
Hmm.
people. And I think the next book, I don't know. I'm not too worried. I think maybe like towards the end they'll get very Cosmere heavy. But I think so far it's been pretty good at
I
sticking to.
So the one thing about Roshar, and this is the reason why I like Stormlight Archive, and this is pretty congruent throughout all of the things that I really love in fantasy, is that there is a real sense of history and mystery within the history. And we have these old books, and people are wiping them off and blowing the dust off of them and going back through, and like you're kind of building out this thing. And when you think about it from a Cosmere thing, and again, I haven't read all the Cosmere, but I've read some other stuff. And then you start to think about like, while this history is going on in Roshar, like what else is going on elsewhere and
Mm,
how does it tie? I don't know. You just really feel like you're in the time and place, knowing that other things exist and other stories are happening at the same time. And that does make, for me, because of the history in Roshar, it makes it feel the best out of the Cosmere. I'm pretty sure Mistborn has some history and stuff too, but I don't think anything's to the level of detail that we get here in Stormlight Archive. So it's just like, I don't know. These people are experiencing their time and place on Roshar, and they're trying to understand their history without having the idea that there's a whole other universe out there and these other stories that are happening. And I do think that when I think about it like that, I get really motivated and I get
yeah.
I'm almost in awe of it at that point. It's very
Yeah.
hard to relay what I'm thinking, but I hope that comes through somewhat.
Yeah. No, yeah, I feel the same. You're right. Like there is something about the in-world texts and the in-world mysteries that make it feel so much more alive and real and important.
Mm-hmm.
The closest we have is Mistborn Era 1. And then, at least for me, so far in Era 2, it's like, well, the history is just Era 1. So I know it, so it's like not as exciting. There being such a mystery here is what, like, we're getting so many answers elsewhere. It's good to still be questioning things here. Because it's what keeps me coming back at least.
Yeah, and as long
Um,
as like not every answer is aliens, like
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I just don't want that to
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
But at one point, for instance, right, like think about the Roman Empire, right? It was the center of the world, biggest thing we'd ever seen, and people thought that was like the omega, right? And now you have like this time period where things kind of start regressing, and you go into the Dark Ages, and then you have I'm just thinking about like the phases of history and thinking that you're at the center of it all, when in reality there's so much more to go in the future, but also things going on the other side of the world, right? Like there's stuff happening in the eastern side of the world that is completely different, and to them that is the focus. And I just think about that stuff when I think about like the Cosmere. Like Roshar is aware of Roshar. At least most of our characters are only worried about Roshar, and they think they're in the most important time period in history. But they're figuring out things from their past, but also they're going to have to interact with people that aren't from Roshar. I mean, that's pretty clear that's going to happen. It's just like, I don't know. It's a wild thing to think about.
Yeah, there's going to be so many conflicting interests.
Yeah, that's a good way of
together.
putting it. Yeah, and people who have different ideas about what is the most important thing to handle. And that creates a lot of tension. And I don't know. It's just really cool. Like you really do feel like you're in a place and time whenever you read this book.
Yeah. And as we're talking, the more I'm thinking about it, like often in Dalinar's visions when he's, back in the day and no one's got any tech except for the Radiance, there's always a lot of really giant buildings and locations that they can't explain how. They're like, okay, they're so primitive, but they got this giant structure. How are these being built? It's making me wonder now with their history how much of like a play the shards had in building specific things, or because really the war is between them and like honor versus odium, with a bit of cultivation sprinkled in there for good measure, right?
Yeah.
Where they just like playing like a D&D campaign and like putting down bases and like resources
it very
for the
well
people.
could be.
Yeah,
Maybe the whole
maybe.
nature of Spren is actually from some sort of like ancient fallout of war. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you could really go down a rabbit hole with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but weirdly enough, I find the Palanaeum more intriguing than Urithiru.
I agree.
Yeah, there's something about it, but I guess I guess we'll get to that. We've got to get back to side carry.
Yeah, I mean, side carry. This chapter is very much just about Bridge 4 and the evolution of the tech, and Kaladin taking responsibility and getting a broader sense of like his responsibility within the army as Bridge 4, and not just about he has conquered survival, but at the cost of military strategy for the forces that he is a part of. Essentially, we also meet Lopen. Hey, Goncho. I don't know how to do a Lopen voice.
That works.
He comes in and says, "You want me, I think." And they do all this stuff. And Kaladin said he'd stop an arrow. That's all some bridgemen are good for in the eyes of the uppers. And then he sees the mark on his face. And he says, that mark is old. Either had to be a kind of master before this, or he has somehow resisted being beaten down. So he had a kind master before this. And this is where I start to wonder, was Lopen placed in Bridge 4 on purpose?
Oh, you think we've got a interesting.
I feel like he was planted.
How though? I mean, for what reason?
Well, I mean, we have an idea that Lopen becomes maybe very important down the road, and I just don't think that these things are all by accident.
Well, all I remember is in like Dawn Shard when he gets his arm back. Oh no, or the end of Rhythm of War, he gets his arm back. One of them, because of his his radiant bond and all that. But are you going down the dark line of thought? Like he's going to betray us all?
No, not even betray. I just wonder, if he had a nudge this way.
Or maybe it was fate or something.
Yeah, maybe fate, or I don't know if our friends somehow manipulating him to be near Kaladin. Like, I just think there's more going on.
Okay.
It just seems really convenient that Lopen happens to stumble in at this exact time with one arm, and Kaladin's like, hey, or maybe the whole moral of the story is that Kaladin sees worth in people that other people find to be trash, right? Like Lopen is a one-armed guy, he's going to eat arrows, and Kaladin's like, no, I'll take him and make him the best. That's probably what this is, but I'm just thinking in my head, like, I wonder if someone put Lopen there.
Yeah, interesting, because
did Hoyd have something to do with it? Or?
Well, there's a few things. We don't know how he lost his arm, so that's a big story. That's a huge story right there. No one just loses an arm. According to the Sandman himself, as I pull up this quote here,
the Sandman.
The Sandman. Oh, I just had it. I'm going to pull it up here, but supposedly it's not like he had a dark past. He was just annoying, apparently. That's how he got traded as a slave.
Okay, yeah, there's nothing behind this then.
Yeah, so they asked him, what did Lopen do to get on a bridge crew? Sanderson says, Lopen? Someone just thought he was annoying. Lopen, he's like the only person in Bridge 4 who's not a criminal. It's just like, oh, that stupid Hadazian, send him to a bridge crew, get him away. He's legitimately all of them have a deep, dark, tragic past, but not the Lopen. Damn. So Sanderson has shut us down. I think he's just a meme. Jimmy.
All right. That's disappointing. But some people, not everything has to be, manipulated or whatever else. So,
I mean, it would be kind of cool. I would, me, I'm always I want everything to be some crazy twist theory. And then,
yeah. And you do need some organic stuff, right? I think that's very important.
For sure. But he was a good vibe for me, adding him to the bridge crew. He comes back with all the water. He's like the team mascot, man. He's like, yeah, I got you guys. What are we doing? What's a bridge crew? But what did you think about the fallout from all this? So they basically screwed up this entire battle with the side carry. Did you have a good image of the side carry in your head?
I'm not a very visual reader, so no. I don't imagine stuff when I read. Very, very rare.
Yeah. So I get that they turn it so it's a giant shield in front of them. I just don't know how they're moving so quickly behind it, and how they're able to manipulate it. So yeah, I would love to see it. I would love to see it in the adaptation. But again, we get these clues that he's using Stormlight. He's basically like carrying this thing single-handedly. He felt as if something were buzzing within him, mixing with his blood. Obviously, the Stormlight, and we get like the classic to be continued moment at the end of the chapter where it's like, oh, they took his spheres, but they were gone, like they were done. What happened? I remember that being really exciting, but beyond that, it's another quite a bit of a straightforward chapter. Was what else did you notice here, if anything?
Well, I did have a question. So he remembers from his past getting some advice about the key of passion. Key of fighting is not passion; it's controlled passion. Care about winning. Care about those you defend. You have to care about something, and it's from Tux. Who's Tux? I can't remember.
Yeah, we went into this a few episodes ago because he mentions Tux. He was like his old trainer in Amaram's army.
That's right. Yeah, I'd already forgotten. Dang.
Yeah. No, it's been a minute. So yeah, that's he thinks about him often. More
I think
often
about
than I ever remembered.
Every time I read Tux, I think about those like little like medicated pads you can use if you have hemorrhoids. Do you know what I'm talking about? Tux.
I have no idea.
Yeah, they're like medicated hemorrhoid wipes, and I always just think about like Tux.
Yeah, it's like Kaladin's hemorrhoid arc.
Yeah, just remember, folks, eat your vegetables. Okay? That's very important.
Oh my god! And God, how do I make a segue from hemorrhoids?
Speaking of hemorrhoids,
Lopen, I guess. Let's go, dude. Let's go to the Palaneum. Let's go to the upside down pyramid.
God, we are so Shalon. Like positive,
yes.
Like, all right, yeah, Kaladin, he's carrying bridges or something. Loser.
Yeah,
anyway,
sad.
Ooh,
you can't even.
She's gonna be upset if I lie. That was a little thing. He thinks about how he can't even do a little white lie because it would offend Syl. She gets upset about it, which is obviously tied to honor and all that stuff. So there's a lot of nice little hints when you don't have all the information that you should be raising your eyebrows to, like, well, why does she get offended? Why does this? And there's cool stuff there, but we kind of know how that story goes, right?
It doesn't compare to a potential Herald sighting. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my! I love this little cheeky line in here. It's so good.
Oh, dude, I don't know, man. I think it could be someone.
All right, chapter 33, cymatics.
Yeah.
All right, they changed even as we fought them, like shadows they were. They can transform as the flame dances. Never underestimate them because of what you first see. First thought is obviously the Parshendi, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am very curious what you think about this. I feel like it's probably not that simple.
I don't think it's them. Just because like shadows they were, they can transform as the flame dancers. I think of Midnight Essence, the thing that Dalinar was fighting a few chapters back. Those black oily beings that shifted and changed.
Yes.
Very similar to nightmares in other situations, if you know what I mean, Jimmy. Yeah, so I think it's alluding to something like that as opposed to Parshendi.
Yeah, I have a feeling that you're on to something there. These again, I always think about like what's the obvious answer, like for the reader that's just reading this, and then like if we extend our knowledge just a little bit, man, this sounds familiar in some other stuff that we've read. So, interesting epigraph to say the least.
Dude, I'm looking at the chapter symbol. I just get excited every time I see this chapter symbol.
I'm just saying also, we talk about the sun a lot on here, and then in the last flashback, Kaladin said it felt like a sun in Lirin's hands.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of imagery around sun. Like, there's no doubt about it.
There is no doubt about it. And my favorite thing I've ever clued into with this like theorying in Stormlight is there's a death rattle where it's like the night of sorrows is coming, the sun approaches the horizon, and I'm just looking at that chapter symbol, and that shades my sun be looking pretty damn close to that horizon. And Sanderson told us like these are scenes in the future. All of these chapter symbols are scenes that happen later, and I'm just like, oh man, every time I see it I get excited. Something's going on.
Some big stuff tucked in here that we will one day look back on and be like, what? We got to reread again?
You can't be saying TWOK that soon after the you just can't be doing that, man.
This episode is brought to you by Tux. Is your butt itch?
Oh man, just straight to it, just asking the people the important questions.
Hey, listen, we're all about health here at Lost and Roshar. We all kinds of health. Eat your greens.
Eat your rock buds.
Cymatics, chapter 33. So the epigraph, this is a Shallan chapter, obviously. And Shallan is thinking about how she sometimes gets distracted by the enormity of the Palanium. Along with a parchment servant, she is on her way to get a copy of the dialogues, though she now has an hour each day to do her own research. She has decided on natural science. She thinks about how she could fill the gaps in her understanding and has to remind herself that her true goal is to steal Jasnah's soulcaster, which, by the way, she forgets like sentence to sentence. She's so enamored. It's almost sad that she has to focus on this thing. But hiding in one of the library rooms, she goes through some of the sketches she has of Jasnah's soulcasting and hopes that with it, she'll be able to create the mineral deposits to save her family, comparing her expectation of Jasnah, the heretic, in the real one. Shallan worries that she might not be able to actually do it. She speculates about talking to Jasnah about the use of a soulcaster, but is startled by a light and decides to get back to her task. She realized that she's in the room where she can find Shadows Remembered. She was surprised to find that in it contained children's stories. So let's stop there and talk about this section, because there's distinctly two different sections of this chapter.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on here. Quite a lot. The Palanium stuff we've kind of already jumped into, but I will just read the section that she talks about it. Standing at the top level's railing, Shallan could see only halfway to the bottom. This place seemed too large, too grand to have been shaped by the hands of men. How had the terrace levels been aligned so perfectly? Had soulcasters been used to create the open spaces? How many gemstones would that have taken? And this is the exact words, by the hands of men. And then the epigraph of the last chapter saying, this is made by the no hands of man. I mean, it's too similar to not be somewhat connected.
100%. Yeah, you're right. Funnily enough, I totally didn't connect that as I read it. But you're right. Too grand to have been shaped by the hands of men.
Hands of men is used in both examples.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I'm having so much fun with the basically the find feature on the ebooks. Is really useful for things like that, to see when Sanderson repeats things, because they're very distinct. Because she does feel the walls. She goes, or the railings. It says the railings had been carved from wood, then transformed to marble. When she ran her fingers across one, she could feel the original wood's grain. At the same time, it had the cold smoothness of stone, an oddity that seemed designed to confuse the senses. So that's really cool in itself. Yeah, I forgot that soul casting keeps the same texture from the original. Whatever you're switching from. So that feels obvious that's soulcast, but the rest of the Palanaeum I don't know about. That whole structure just seems impossible, even if you're soulcasting, to do an upside down pyramid. Yeah,
this place is obviously extraordinarily significant. It holds a bunch of these old texts, the dialogues, which is super interesting. It's essentially a famous historical work on the topic of political theory on Roshar during the era of solitude. The Palanium had a copy of the dialogues, which was located in the same room as the Shadows Remembered. And I'm wondering if there's a significance about them both being housed there, because the Shadows Remembered was a book on Roshar, full of children's tales about Voidbringers. The unnamed female author had been curious about folk tales of the Dark Eyes and had spent years collecting them. It was a thin red book with a hogside cover. It is likely an older work, as a copy kept in the Palanium, shelved in the same room as the dialogues. This is interesting because Jasnah is reading this book and it's piquing her interest. So Jasnah is going through and taking notes that she's not dismissing children's stories or mythology or any of this, and that it could in fact be true. The more interesting thing is, and this, I might be going too far, but it's written by a female author unnamed. And then whenever she's looking over here, right? All right, check this out. A light flickering through the nearby bookcases startled her, and she tucked away her folio. It turned out to just be an old berobed female ardent, shuffling with a lantern followed by a parchment servant. She didn't look in Shalon's direction as she turned between the two rows of shelves, her lantern's light shining out through the spaces between the books. Lit that way, with her figure hidden, but the light streaming from the shelves, it looked as if one of the heralds themselves were walking through the stacks.
Guess what, mate? You know what the best part is? It is a herald, and it's confirmed by Sandman. It is. It is a herald.
And is this the person maybe who wrote Shadows Remembered?
Maybe.
Who has all this Voidbringer stuff? I mean, a herald would know that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe after being a herald for millennia, they're like, you know what? Children's books. That's where it's at. That's where the money's at. Potentially. Firstly, before I get too excited about the herald spotting, I think it's very cool that that Jasnah's looking into these children's tales, because this is, I mean, what historians in our world do. We can extrapolate from all different kinds of sources, right? And a lot of these cautionary children's tales have, nuggets of reality in them.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very cool if she had also written it, like the unnamed. It's a bit of a tease, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is what I'm going to say about this herald, because I'm very excited. I mean, he straight up said it in 2017. The old ardent in the Palanaeum is Pyla. I don't know how to say these names, but it's the herald which they named the Palanaeum after. So interesting that she's there. Why? Like, I guess she just stays there forever. More interesting is that she has a parchment servant. So is that parchment clued in at all? Is it actually a parchment? Or is it like a special servant? Because I think
it's weird.
Right? Like heralds would be very discerning, I'm guessing. Like he used to give hints about it. He goes, there is a herald in close proximity to Taravangian, but she's not anyone in his immediate inner circle, seen commonly on screen. So I just think it's a bit of it seems like it's a little bit of just a shout out to say, oh, the herald's there. That this building was named after.
And obviously it's a very significant building as well, right?
Yeah, I wonder if that herald knows how it was built, because it was named after her.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it had a different name. It's hard to think. It's hard to say. But like this herald as well, I don't know which book it is, but here I'll show you. Remember this art piece? Like
yes.
That's her. So it's in one of the. Is it Rhythm of War? I think it is Rhythm of War. Yeah, that she's mentioned in. So it says the cultural references to Pyla imply that she might have been a scholar prior to becoming a herald. As a herald, she's an immortal cognitive shadow. Every time she dies, she travels to Braze, and then she gets tortured, blah, 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 blah. When Pyla wielded her honor blade, she had to use the surges of illumination, allowing her to create illusions of light and sound and progression, letting her grow plants and heal herself and others. So, yeah, pretty basic stuff. Let me see. She was born on Ashen, scholar, abandoned the Oath Pact. We really don't know much else. And then it's just confirmed that she's in the scene. That's it.
I feel like
a little more.
I feel like we'll get more, and we'll be like, "Whoa!"
She was like reading. Maybe she was reading Knights of Wind and Truth. You know what? We never touched on that, because like every book title is an in-world book.
Yeah, that's true.
So it is, who's writing a Knights of Wind and Truth? Who's writing that one?
Ooh, and Desando, no, yet.
Yeah, because like I remember, so that we know what the Way of Kings was Nohadon and his big thing. Words of Radiance, that was. I'm actually kind of not really remembering what the in-world book was about. Words of Radiance.
I don't remember.
I think it was just some I mean, this is bad that I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's just like some sort of Radiant guidebook or some study on the Radiance or something like that. Oathbringer was obviously Dalinar's, big publishing debut. Rhythm of War, I think that was Navani and Raboniel's effort. If this is all just like off the top of my head, like, that could be wrong. Anyway, I'm guessing that Knights of Wind and Truth will be a current release in Roshar. It won't be like some uncovered text.
A new release. TikTok
release.
favorite.
Yeah. Kaladin. Yeah, look, maybe Kaladin writes it. Because
maybe he writes it while he journeys.
Yeah, he's like,
little journal. Yeah.
Ooh.
That's what it is. I nailed it.
Say no more. I like it.
Or it's going to be some sort of text that is written about the visit by the people of Shinovar, right?
Yeah.
Like recounting this monumentous moment where they visit.
Yeah, if it just like the truth part feels like this has to be about Seth.
Yeah,
right.
It absolutely does. Yeah, and Shinovar probably as a whole.
I feel like we'll get the full answer and the full scope of whatever the heck Shinovar is, where it came from in this book. So yeah,
we better.
Yeah, he can't keep that. He can't keep dangling that in front of us for 6 more books. There's no way.
Yeah. So the second part of this, did you have anything?
Go back quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when she's talking about Jasnah's, when she has soulcast in front of Shallan, a few different examples, right? Like she's just like getting rid of papers and just doing pretty basic stuff, turning things to fire. And Shallan's like, it's not like burning, it's like changing to flame, which was cool. But this one stood out to me. It says, there was also one of Jasnah's burning words after running out of ink. When Shallan had seen her burning letters into a page, she'd been amazed at the soulcaster's precision. So like she's run out of ink, she's literally just writing, but she's soulcasting the page into letters and words. And I'm just like, now that we know how it works, right? We are like convincing an object to change or whatever, to like do it to the level of like writing and letters.
Yeah, it's
like
pretty intense.
Insane, like an insane amount of skill. And it says, it's seen that this soulcaster was attuned to 3 essences in particular: vapor, spark, and lucentia. And look, I'm guessing, look, I didn't look this up, but I'm guessing this is just whatever surges that Jasnah's Order of Radiant can use, right? So
yeah,
she thinks it's just the soulcaster, but this is like Jasnah's specific ability. So I guess it's a clue to that. But what stood out to me was that she can literally write. Like Jasnah is extremely sophisticated and skilled.
Yeah, and we kind of see her power as it would be later on, right? I mean, we see her do some of the most epic things in the series. So it's no surprise that there's some early signs here that she is extremely powerful.
Yeah, like almost like confusingly powerful.
Yeah, in some ways, I would agree. Yeah.
Because there's these cheeky little moments where they're like, remember those tough days with Jasnah as a kid when we had to lock her up and all this stuff? Like they allude to some kind of dark things in her past. I think there's gonna be some bombshells in the Jasnah flashbacks for sure.
God, I can't wait for those.
Yeah, I reckon they might be our best ones.
They're the ones I'm looking forward to the most, honestly.
Yeah, even more than the Herald ones. To be honest, I couldn't really get that. I think I'm excited for every Stormlight book, but I don't have much to work with the Heralds. Like, what are their flashbacks? I can't even get a grasp on that. Whereas Jasnah, I can.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So this second part, hey?
Yeah, the second part is all about them Simberry Jam moments, you know, where she's basically going to try to talk to Jasnah, and she realizes that Jasnah is not there. But we do see Capsule, and Capsule is there, and he's wanting to give the jam, and they have a back and forth, as you do. And the crazy thing is Capsule tries to get Shallan to switch the devotaries.
Yeah.
devotees.
Yeah.
Even though it is apparently frowned upon to recruit, Capsule intended to show Jasnah proof of the Almighty, which Shallan is curious to see. He gets out a book where he shows her the four patterns of the cities: Kolinar, Vedinar, Thalen City, and Akana. Using a manipulate with sand and a bow, he recreates the patterns in the sand through the resonance, telling her that this is called cymatics. And then he ends up complimenting her name too, saying it's almost perfect, which I thought was kind of interesting. But basically, Jasnah appears, is not surprised to see Capsule there, and she's not very happy either. And she reveals she knows about cymatics, but doesn't seem impressed by it. After Capsule is gone, Jasnah warns Shallan that Capsule is only interested in Shallan to get Jasnah in her soulcaster.
Smooth talking Capsule.
Yeah,
he can't be stopped, can he?
He's trying. He's doing his best.
Give him a bit of jam and just, a little bit of sand and off he goes.
Off he goes.
He's ready. I wonder how many other innocent young women he's doing these demos for.
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah, he just walks around and is like, have you heard about the cymatics? No, that was really interesting to me. I remembered the symmetry, but not how it played into notes and music, which is like perfectly in line with the world building. I think it's. I wonder how many people. I mean, I certainly wasn't before Rhythm of War came out. How clued in we were to the whole music and note thing on Roshar, but now it seems like abundantly clear. The coolest thing is how I love that this is a real world thing that we see as well, but not. I don't think it's to the insane level of like symmetry and stuff that we see here. What do you make of these cities? Because there was an interesting argument how Shallan's like, well, they worked around what was there and made it symmetrical, obviously. And then he doubles down with his little demonstration and shows, no, dude, this is crazy. Like, I play this note and this city shows up. So what's going on here?
I don't know, but I think we've been talking about the Palanium, we're talking about Irathero, and now we're talking about these cities. Like, this is all leading me down this rabbit hole of like the past is a very strange thing on Roshar, and we have no idea what's going on.
Aliens. I mean, because we always get these mentions of the Dawn Singers, right? Like the first singers. And we see these stones being molded. And I always talk about this scene when like Venli starts doing it at Irathero. She hears the voices of the Dawn Singers and she's molding stone. I'm guessing that like in the early days of Roshar, the early Parshendi could sing or do the right tones that would create these amazing geometrical symmetries, right? And they're like left as like monoliths, and the humans came and thought, oh, that looks cool, let's put some buildings there.
Yeah.
Probably that, right?
Yeah, and then you have to wonder if there's any sort of like power in these places, like, and that's where heralds are walking around.
It reminds me of Uluru in Australia. I went there earlier this year, and like, or Ayers Rock as some people know it, but like those places, it just like defies belief. Like, how the heck is this giant rock just like, it's just there? Like, who put it there? Like, it's just kind of stunning to see these giant natural wonders. And you think, what's there? Like think of how much history has been here. How many people have seen this over how many thousands of years? How many stories have been told here? Which is getting slightly off track for what we're trying to discuss here, but
it kind of shows the wonder of Roshar and these places. I mean, they're significant, and there's a story behind them, and I don't think we know the whole story yet.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the most interesting things that we've encountered so far. Like, can you imagine just like shaking a like, I don't know, getting out a violin, playing a note, and then sand turns into like the plan for Boston or something? It would just be like, what is going on? Yeah, it's cool. Capsule, dude. I don't know what to make of him. Did you catch Shallan's referring to the fandom at some point?
No.
We're kind of vibing. She goes, the outdoors. I visited that mythical place once. It was so very long ago. I've nearly forgotten it. Tell me, does the sun still shine, or is that just my dreamy recollection? So she's just like us, man.
That
We're
is
not alone.
amazing.
Yeah. Love it when Sando, he knows his audience, doesn't he?
He really does.
Anything else, mate, in this lovely chapter?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the second half is good because, I mean, the capsule stuff, knowing that what he's up to and that, it's no good, I would say, is fun to see play out. And knowing that that Jasnah is pretty much completely correct here, right? Like Jasnah is definitely not wrong. And also, I like the fact that Jasnah's getting the study, or not Yas, I'm sorry, Shallan's getting the study. I think that that's what she really wants to do. And then for her to start forgetting, the treachery that she's supposed to do is it's a nice Shallan moment,
Yeah, it's interesting what we grab onto. Like I was like, yeah, that's cool, but why are the cities in the sand? Like I just can't let it go. I cannot let it go. He also mentions that the glyphs and letters came from the Dawn Singers, which I did not realize either.
I also did not know that.
Yeah, so humanity's inherited the language, so they've learnt it. Which I guess is why the script, as you see it looks like sound waves.
Yeah.
Not the glyphs, but like the actual women's script, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like sound. So obviously that's, people who know about the rhythms and the tones of Roshar would create a language like that, not the humans. Obviously, that makes perfect sense, but I've never really thought about it. I liked how Jasnah refuted, like, she's like, yeah, well, where's your sand trick for Urithiru, dude?
Yeah, and he's like, Urithiru is a legend. And she's like, pah!
Pah! Read book 2.
Dumb.
Yeah. Ghost Bloods don't know that much.
They don't.
Dude, this sounds really bad, but I don't remember how they find Urithiru. I actually don't remember.
Me either.
Yeah. Like, do they run
don't
it?
Don't tell anybody, though.
Yeah.
I'm really embarrassed by it, but I don't remember either.
Yeah, let's cut that bit out. Yeah, they don't need to know. It's one Google search away, but I refuse.
We'll get there. We got time.
Yeah, we got time. But I think that wraps it up for this week. It was nice to read 3 chapters. And look, I'm very excited because as we go into the next chapters, and it's that chapter or those 2 chapters where he gets that vision.
Yes. This is the big moment.
It kind of cuts just before it, but yeah, we're leading up to it. Leading up to it.
Finally, some payoff, I would say, or at least revelations for Kaladin.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it might be another 3 chapter week. We'll talk, but could be. Yeah,
I have to see here. I'll look because it depends on how many pages they are. Sometimes the recap is not as long as the chapter, but sometimes short chapters can really. Oh yeah, we can do 3. Yeah, we'll do 3.
3 chapter week.
And we get some more illustrations too. Let's go. Shellbark, Kremlings. Oh yeah, I love these.
You had me at Kremlings, mate.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we could definitely do 3 next time.
Yeah, for sure.
34, 35, and 36, I would say.
Yeah, I'm happy. Look, we are doing the slow burn, but I also do like ramping it up every now and then. Maybe 3 could be the new standard, depending on how we go.
Yeah, I can't do 40 pages. That's the only thing. Like if it gets above like 20, 30, I'm like, I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, anyway, guys, as always, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. Join us next week to read chapter 34, 35, and 36.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. And if you have any theories, please spam read us at lostandroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar, and remember to keep that safe hand covered.